So today I am doing an interesting recipe. It is cheesy apple pie. And originally I thought that this recipe was based just in the US Midwest. I think outside of that area, people are gonna find this recipe strange. But as it turns out, it originated from England, where people would stick pieces of cheese right under the crust and then bake it. And that way, everything is just melted into one thing, and it's just supposedly uber delicious. But I thought, because it was the holiday season, we're gonna do things big. So I actually have the cheese that I have grated right into the crust. I also made a hot cheese sauce that I'm going to pour over the entire pie, over the entire ice cream, so that everything is melted and super delicious. Today we're lucky enough to be sponsored by Butte Island Foods, which makes all of those yummy, delicious cheeses. They've been doing it for 30 years. They have a huge array in their line. I know a lot of you guys always ask for taste tests at the end of the recipe, so I thought that this would be the perfect recipe to do that for. So stay tuned for that. It will be right after this recipe, and you guys can see me digging into this. I was so excited by putting the cheeses in the apple pie that I forgot to mention that we are doing a method for the flakiest apple pie ever. It is the best recipe that I've ever tried. I learned it in culinary school, and it's really such an amazing technique. So as usual, recipes are going to be down below. I have some all-purpose flour, some sugar, some salt, and then I'm putting in 1 3/4 of a cup of cubed, very chilled vegan butter. And I'm not going to touch the dough until it is done. I'm going to use the scraper and the rolling pin, and I'm going to roll thin sheets of butter right into the flour. And that is what is essentially going to make the layers. So I'm going to repeat this for a couple of times first before I add in my cheddar cheese and a little bit of iced water. So I think adding the cheese makes this a little bit tricky because this is not in the original recipe, but I'm gonna just try to bring it together. I'm gonna add in a 1/4 cup of ice water. You might wanna add a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, and then using that same technique of rolling out the layers and then folding it back in with the bench scraper. I'm gonna do that for about 3 to 4 more times, and naturally the dough kind of just starts coming together as more of the butter and the liquid is incorporated. One of the things I didn't explain was I'm not touching it because I need to keep this mixture cold. If the butter starts melting, you have to put it back into the refrigerator, because otherwise the layers that you're working on making, that'll just melt together in one.
And y'all can see that what I do with the bench scraper is I fold it in on all 4 sides. And that method also makes more layers on top of the layers that we made with the butter. So 2 to 3 more times of this and it will come together in a loose, crumbly mix, and we can just refrigerate it first and then bring it together afterwards. You want to refrigerate that for about an hour or so, or overnight if you want. This is a great recipe to make your apple pie dough ahead of time, and that way when it's the holidays, when it's Thanksgiving, you can just have everything ready to go. So now we're going to make our apple filling, and I used to work in the bakery, guys, so when Thanksgiving came around, I would have to do like 8 to 10 boxes of apples, and I just did them over and over again. And this method with the corer and the peeler was the easiest way that I could get nice and uniformed looking pieces. So 8 Granny Smith apples go into this pie. So in terms of the filling, I actually cook mine first before putting everything together. And I find that the apple pies come out better that way. It doesn't get, the juice spilled all over the place, and you get some really nice crunch still left in your crust. So a variety of sugars go in. I have some lemon zest, some lemon juice, and then just a little bit of cinnamon, allspice, and cloves. I know that sometimes people don't like their apple pies too spiced up, but just a little bit of that I think adds the holidays right back in. This guy gets cooked on the stovetop, medium to medium high heat for just 10 minutes. Some recipes call for more. It depends if you still like a little bite in your apples, and I very much do, because it's still going into the oven for just a little bit of time. So just get some of those juices out, have it reduce and concentrate, and 10 minutes and you should be good to go. So while your filling cools off, and make sure that it's completely cooled before you fill these pies, I'm going to roll out the crusts. And I actually used the saran wrap to my advantage because I pressed all of the dough together. Because if you guys remember, it was a little bit crumbly before. But if you still find that your dough is a little bit dry, feel free to just sprinkle on a little bit of water with your hands. And I am just rolling it out until it's about 1/8 of an inch thick. Kind of went Canadian there for a sec. And then I use the pie pan, which is, I think is a 10-inch pie pan, to measure out exactly how much I needed. Now, this is a technique that I don't know if a lot of people do, but you have to physically press the corners of the dough into the corners of the pan, because otherwise, as it bakes and as the butter melts, sometimes the sides of the tart just end up falling in, right? And then you get that like weird collapsed look. So make sure to do that, and then we will top it off. So the original recipe asked me to add in a 1/4 cup of whatever liquid was left over. And I thought for me that was right about right, but I feel like a little bit more doesn't really hurt. I don't know. So there that is. And now we're going to top it off, and I'm going to crimp it with a fork. But we are going to make it look amazing because it is the holidays. So with the crimping, I find that you have to press down pretty hard. One, to seal it, which is what the original reason is for, but as it bakes, the dough kind of rises up and you lose those little indentations. So make sure to make your mark on this. We're gonna poke in a couple of holes up top, and then afterwards, before you bake it, you want to put it into the freezer for right around 20 minutes or so that everything is nice and structured before you put it into the oven. So I'm gonna put the temperatures down below, but you're gonna start off at 400 degrees Fahrenheit, get some color on this guy, and then cook it for another half an hour on a lower heat, and it comes out looking like this. I did sprinkle it with a little bit of crystal sugar up top so that you can get a little bit more crunch. But if you can see the layers on that dough, it is so crispy and crunchy and just so good. Oh boy, you can count the layers on that thing. So usually what people will serve this with is just a chunk of cheese. And if you guys saw my review, you know how much I love the Red Leicester because it's super tangy, it's super sharp and nice. But what I ended up doing was I melted it with a little bit of non-dairy milk, and I got this really nice hot cream sauce that I'm gonna pour right over some vegan vanilla ice cream.
Okay, so taste test time. I hope you guys all enjoyed that recipe. Like, how crazy delicious does that look? I'm not gonna lie, this is already my second piece that I'm digging into. So I know how it is really good. Like, that sauce needs to be put over ice cream all the time. It's so, so good. So I'm gonna try the pie for you guys first, and I'll probably just do a little bit of the crust because it has the cheese baked right in. The crust itself is so flaky, and it's nice because you have kind of hints of the cheddar. The cheddar is not actually strong in this at all, so I'd say it's kind of like a lightly savory kind of cracker flavor, and it pairs really well with the tang from the apples. And now for the ice cream, it has all melted from the cheese sauce. This one is so good. Because we use the Red Leicester is really rich. It has a really nice tang to it. So that with the sweet ice cream basically turns this whole thing into a cheesecake. That is exactly how it tastes. So you basically get like cheesecake and apple pie in one go. And I almost think like the Red Leicester is quite nice. Like, I would maybe use it in the crust if you're looking for something more tangy in the crust versus the cheddar, which is a little bit lighter. But definitely the Red Leicester for like a pour over sauce. It is really, really good. You guys have to go and try out this recipe. So yeah, that is the taste test for me. I will see you guys again soon. Next time. Bye. See you later. Okay. Bye.